Alright, after creating a curve, you will then add a surface to it, which is called lofting or skinning. In a previous video I showed how to add and manipulate the curve, like the one you see here. Now we're going to add a surface to it. If we don't add a surface to it, there's really nothing there. If I rendered this as just the curve, it wouldn't show anything. So we don't have a mesh, we don't have an object here, it's just a curve. So we need to create a surface, put a surface on it to create an object out of it. So if you come up to click on the curve, and as long as you're in object mode, come over here to our curve tab, click on the curve, and there's lots of options here, lots of things you can do with it. You can play around with it and learn lots of different things. I'm going to show you just a few basics here. The first thing is the fill. This is how when we give it some depth, it's going to fill. By default it's halfway. We're gonna change that to full. We want it to fill all the way around. Now the next thing is resolution. If I click right here in the middle and drag, you can see what it does to the curve. It just makes it less smooth, and so I could go all the way to 64. I'm going to choose just 30. That should be enough. And the next thing is bevel. So this gives it the depth, and then we'll change the resolution in just a second. If I click and drag right in the middle of that, you can see that it gives it lots of depth or a little bit of depth. It just depends on what you're doing with the curve. If I'm making headphones out of it, I would make it less depth, make it a lot skinnier, obviously. Now if you zoom in on it, you can see that it's just a square. Now we're going to change that with the resolution, depending on what we want to do with it. Sometimes we want a square, sometimes we want it perfectly round. So if I click in the middle of this resolution below bevel and drag to the right, you can see that it curves it. So I'm going to go to just around 30 also, and that will be fine. Now it's a nice round curved mesh. So if I rendered this, you would be able to see it now. Okay, a couple other things we can do with this. Well, there's lots of other options. You can play around with them. Extrude's kind of cool. It makes it like a ribbon or a wall or something different. But play around with the others to see what they do. Now if I go back into edit mode, I can still edit this, and I can still change it around. So I'll make sure I'm on my top view so it doesn't give it any depth. But I can still change that around. So a lot of times we leave it as a curve, but if we want to manipulate some individual polygons on it or extrude something out of the curve, that we can't do it as a curve. We would need to convert it to a mesh. So the way we do that is make sure you're in object mode and do an Alt-C. That's going to convert it to a mesh. We could convert it to a curve, but it's already a curve, so we're going to convert it to a mesh from a curve. Click on that, and then if I go into edit mode, tab to edit mode, you can see the individual faces on it and all the polygons, and there's a lot because I changed the resolution to pretty high. But if we were wanting to extrude something out of that, get my face select, I could grab one of those individual faces and then extrude it depending on what I wanted to do with my curve. Okay. So in this way I can't easily change the curve, so I need to make sure that I have the curve that I want before I convert it to a mesh. Otherwise, if I just want a curve, it's best to keep it as a curve and not convert it to a mesh. Depends on what you want to do with it.